Well, here we are again, and we got the another BM creation to enter with the collection. It's the Suzuki Swift Gti, the second generation. The Suzuki Swift does date back to 1983. I guess that would be the first generation, and it's known as under many different names: the Cultus, the Swift, the Forza, the Chevy Swift, the Sprint Metro, the Geo Metro, Chevy Metro, Pontiac Firefly, the Maruti 1000, the Holden Barina, and the Subaru Justy. I think I like the Justy one the most. I specifically remember this car because my friend had a Geo Metro back in the 1990s, I believe it was, the early 90s. And it was the first car I'd ever been in that only had a three-cylinder engine. And it had a hard time driving on the freeway. We would actually literally have a hard time going up small hills on the Mass Turnpike, which is not a really mountainous region. You know, Massachusetts is a relatively flat state. And we got passed by semi trucks. so, so yeah, it wasn't a high performance vehicle. Clearly, it was more along basic transportation. But you know, a few decades on, it's more nostalgia. Right? It's kind of cool. I've mentioned this before. I would like to see some brand take on the Yugo. I'd like to see a nice premium version of the Yugo, and the AMC Pacer, and other cars that have got a lot of flack for being a little bit goofy. So I'm having a hard time taking this out. Alright, so by the way, I think this is a newer release, so it's getting away from the crystal cases, which for me is okay, because I don't display my stuff in a crystal case unless it has sensitive parts. But it is officially licensed. I guess all BM creations are licensed by the car companies. In this case, it does tell you what year it is, so that was helpful for me pulling up my photos. And yeah, there's a website, although the website doesn't show their latest releases, so it's like their IT group is maybe they don't exist, maybe they got fired, who knows. Okay, so this is clearly an official photo. It was really hard to find photos of this car in stock form, so this will have to do here for this front 3/4. And the wheels are a little bit thick, right? And the spokes, they're not as thin as these in the photos, right? So that's not particularly good. The rest of it seems alright. Color matched door handle, the black trimmer on the windows. Okay. So here's a rear view, although I don't know if it's modified or not. I would think the rear looks pretty stock. If anything, it's the model that's modified. Look at the exhaust tip on this model. That's clearly not stock. It's too big to be a stock engine. Oh, by the way, yeah, so this GTI, it had disc brakes, whereas the regular Swifts did not. And this would have been powered by a 1.3 liter engine, making around 100 horsepower, unless you lived in Japan where it had higher compression, and then it would have like 113 horsepower. And then in Japan, this thing was also even offered with all-wheel drive, which seems, I don't know, does that make sense to have such a small vehicle like this have all-wheel drive? Unless people were rally racing these, which is a possibility, because I know Subaru had something called the Vivio, and I think that was all-wheel drive. So, but I imagine the majority of Swifts were just front-wheel drive. And the second generation came out in 1988. I forgot if I mentioned that. But it's sold up to 2016 in Pakistan. So that's they're milking this design in Pakistan at least. Okay. So other variations of the Swift could have been a convertible, a four-door sedan, or a five-door hatchback. But we're looking at a three-door hatchback. Alright, so let's get a look here. Alright, so obviously it's white. It doesn't seem like it's metallic. No, I don't see any specs in there, so it's just a regular plain white. The printing here on the side's really nicely done. Twin cam, 16 valve. Yeah, the wheels look nice, they just don't look really like the photograph. The spokes are a lot thicker here. But in the defense of any 64 scale company, if these spokes were half that thin, there's a good chance that the wheel would break, I think. So they had to thicken it up. Alright. It's nice that there's some little holes here for the lug nuts, but what's missing is the little black center cap. I think it would have been smart if they maybe even raised a circle there and had a black center cap there, but oh well. Let's see, the door handle, yeah, it looks pretty good. You know, there's a little recess there for your fingers to grab it. Unfortunately, being white here, it's having a hard time covering up the casting. You can see the dark edges, and that's every brand's problem. It's not just BM Creations. I see it all the time on Kyoshos and stuff. Okay, nice to see that BM's puts in a little silver paint to mimic some sort of mirror there. And then we do have the black here of this window molding, although it seems like it's not really well applied. Right? You can see how it's clear there. There wasn't enough black there. Okay, there's a little orange reflector here painted on. Seems alright. And then the front end, orange paint for the turn signals. The lenses here look pretty good. You can see all the little ribbing in there. And you can see a little dot back there for the light bulb. So that's pretty accurate. A little black paint in here for the grill. And the grill has a little bit of a texture to it. It's great that it says Swift here instead of just a blank plate. There's a little silver paint down here. I imagine these are supposed to be fog lights or something. A little black paint again in those recesses. So those are pretty good. Pretty good front end. There's the badge. Yeah, that's pretty clear. Nice and legible. A little contaminant there. Raised and painted black wiper blades, so no complaints there. The mirrors, you know, they're separate pieces and not part of the casting. Although this one seems to be a little bit tweaked upwards, so that's not the best application by whoever made this. For now, the tires are not steering. They're super tight. I'm now believing they do that on purpose because when it sits in the package, they want to really show people that you can steer the vehicle. If it was loose, you know, in shipping it might just go straight, and then you wouldn't even know that this thing has a steering function, which is, you know, obviously a selling point. And actually you can see a lot of black there over, I don't know, looks like fingerprints or something. I'm going to have to probably polish that out with some Tamiya compound. And then, yeah, so these rear wheels are all the wheels. They do spin, they just don't spin freely, right? They're not meant to go down Hot Wheels tracks, guys. So, okay. This side has the fuel filler door. Yeah, you know what? This panel, excuse me, the panel gaps on this are pretty huge. Look at this. The whole pick end goes in here. So this is probably worse than some of the newer Hot Wheels. This is like a Hot Wheels kind of panel gap. Not very good. Weird, because this one seems thin. The gaps here are thin, but why is this so massive? And the doors aren't very thin either. Alright, again, some of the black paint is missing there. In this case, the black paint is on the casting, so the white paint is showing through. So not the best QC there. Okay, so the defroster lines aren't too bad because you can still see the front end, right? So they're not blocking the view. And then you do have the wiper blade sticking up painted black, so that's nice. Okay, so the back here, I'm guessing that's clearly an aftermarket. Oh, maybe it's not. I'm looking at the photo now. I couldn't see before. But there are two exhaust tips on that photograph. So, and they're really small, so I do feel that this is, well, they got two exhaust tips, it's just that they're really big, so this almost looks like an aftermarket conversion. Okay, some black paint way in there, look at that, that's pretty far in. And then with the tail lights, yeah, you got clear orange and red, and then it looks like maybe some white paint on there for the backups. So good tail lights, good license plate, good badge here. Or not. I feel like this is blurry. 1.3 GT. That 1.3 is really blurry. But the Suzuki and Swift look pretty good. Look at this. Oh, okay, so the wheel's just vertical. These are supposed to be the stock wheels, right? So when it sits on, it looks normal, I guess, when it's resting. Here, it's just resting. Okay. So let me take this apart. And you can fast forward if you want. I want to see if this has a different interior, so I'm going to go through this on camera. The interior pieces, that is. I want to see if it changes from the previous releases. So, get these wheels out. Oh, I think it's still the old method, because it's got 2 posts. So there's going to be 4 screws in there. What model is it? I think it's the, boy, I already forget. I did another BM Creations, and they have only 1 screw in the front. I'll show you. Alright, well this is also a little different. There's only 1 screw, and there must be a tab here. So, let's open this up. Decent silver paint on the exhaust there. Swift Gti, scale. Alright. I think it would have been nice to say 1989 on the bottom, though. It says it on the packaging, but maybe they were thinking they're going to add some pieces or something to do with different years of the Swift. That's the only reasoning I could think of. Okay, hold on, let me back out here. Alright, let's see this interior. Okay, so the dashboard is riveted to the top. Interesting. And that glass is riveted in 3 spots. The front and rear glass are one piece, the side winds are a different piece. So that looks a little different than some of the other BM Creations. Oh, so I see there's some decals or something on these front seats. Unfortunately, they're so dark I couldn't even tell from the outside. And you can see the giant air pocket on that left seat. So, and that right seat's decal is not applied very straight. So, in general, I would say decals are pretty bad. Decals don't seem to be a good idea for any vehicle made in miniature, because you get air pockets, and even if you apply the decal correctly, over time it's going to crack, and if you touch it with your fingers will lift it off probably. So ideally, this stuff would have been painted like TLV paints the interiors, so that, granted this doesn't cost as much as a TLV, but yeah, decals, if you can't do it right, maybe it would be better without it. Especially this color. I mean, you can barely tell it's a decal. It's so dark. Strange. But I guess it's probably accurate to the real car. That's what I'd imagine there. Okay, so this is the same as usual. Oh, no, it's not. The steering rod is in the back. Usually it's up here. They had to do it, I guess, that way because, the rivet's right here, or the screw thread is here. It doesn't really affect the performance. Okay, so where'd that screwdriver go? So there's going to be a washer here that I'm going to take off. And if you were to place this washer here underneath the steering pieces here, you would essentially lower the ride height, because you're raising the wheels and they're sinking into the body higher. So you can actually lower this car using the stock wheels if you wanted to by putting this washer on before this. But in this case, I'm going to put the washer on before the aftermarket wheels. So we're going to lower it with the aftermarket wheels. Alright, so in this case, we're going to put the steering tie rod there, or whatever they're called, in the back position. And unfortunately, this thing doesn't want to go in the post. Weird. Alright, I'm gonna have to come back. I'm gonna have to file this down. There's something, yeah, I don't think that hole is molded correctly. So I'm gonna come back, put this all together. And you'll see right now the wheels are in a vertical position. The second wheel set is gonna be cambered in. So as I was putting it back together, I realized there's actually instruments in the cluster there. See the dashboard there? You can see a little red dial. It's not the greatest graphic, but it helps break up the monotony of that black dashboard. So, nice little touch there. Okay, so here's the wheel set here, and clearly it's lowered and sunken into the bodywork. I do like these wheels more than the other ones, I think. You got a little gold, and you got the perimeter bolts and stuff. The gold could have been applied a little bit better, but I've seen that on other brands' wheels as well with multicolor. It's hard to get the paint app 100% overall, everything in the middle. So, yeah, so I made it so it can steer. It's not super tight with the bolts. I think it looks cooler with these aftermarket wheels. It does have pretty narrow tires. You know, it does seem, I don't know, I guess it seems, I feel like they would be bigger if you're going to put aftermarket wheels onto a car, even with only 1.3 liters. Maybe like these tires were like the stock ones. I just kind of feel like they would be wider. So, in fact, here's a Suzuki Swift rally car from CM's. Granted, this is a 1.6 liter, but it's a much wider tire. Granted, it's a more modern car. A Suzuki front. This is from Konami, but I don't think Konami makes tires that are scaled. They just make one tire for all their models. But even this one has wider tires, it seems, and they're tiny diameters. Okay, well, that's a good segue at least into the comparison to a couple other Suzukis. So yeah, we have a Swift here, Swift rally car in yellow, and then the blue one is called a Front or Fronte. I don't know what is the proper pronunciation. The blue one is made by Konami, and then this yellow one is made by CM's. Both of Priant, I guess, are not making models anymore, so if you're interested, you better hop on eBay and get on it. Okay, so this time around, there's a lot of QC problems. You know, the paint apps are not very good. The decals on the seats were not applied very well. But at least the wheels look good. Um, I'm still okay with it, I guess. Oh, and all that extra black paint on that door, that's unsightly. So I'm gonna have to go, oh boy, look at this. There's also a lot of black paint right there. So that's not good. I ordered this online, and so if you order this online, you're at the same risk as me. You might get a model with a lot of blemishes. Luckily for me, I can take a Q-tip and some Tamiya compound, polish out the extra black, and then where it's missing, I'll just add some black paint myself with a small brush. I still like a lot of their details that they do add. I think this time around I just got some bad luck. Thanks.